Hello? All right, welcome. Welcome to Matt's. Can you believe it that we're here at 50 years? I wanted to say hello to everybody here today. People probably don't know who I am, and that's all right. Hey, I don't have an American Express card. My name is Mark Rumps. I run Trucking Answers. You may have not heard of it. It's a YouTube channel. Also have a podcast if you've been there to that. All right, but the thing is, I've been a driver for 33 years. And so I try to teach and advocate for drivers on the channel and just do that. So today we want to talk about maximizing your log so that you can make the most money legally. Running illegal, bad news, bad news. Oh, and by the way, the OIDA people that were here earlier, the truck business, hey, we want to say we love the IRS, all right? They are the best and no problem with them at any time. They are very friendly people. All right, I wanted to get that out there. Anybody has any questions, just go ahead. We'll take questions as we go along here. And the company, by the way, if you're a company driver, your company has to allow these things. Some of the things that we're going to talk about today, companies don't allow. So PC, split sleeper, some companies don't allow these things. You may want to talk to your company to have them allow this. Like PCs, the first thing that we're going to talk about, maximizing your hours through PC. You can PC from a shipper or receiver only if you run out of hours at that shipper or receiver. So if you run out of hours there, you can't go in though. People try this all the time. Oh, well, Mark, I had 10 minutes to go. And so I drove out and then changed to PC on the road and I got a ticket. You cannot do that. If you run out of hours at the shipper or receiver, then you can go to the nearest safe, legal parking place, even if it's on your way. Legal. So that means if there's ramp parking, we can't do ramp parking. That's not legal. So you can continue on. You go to the truck stop and there's no parking. This is why I recommend a dash cam. How are you going to prove that there was no parking? You need a dash cam. You say, hey, I filmed this whole thing. This is why there was no parking, right? PC. But your company has to allow it. Like where I work, they don't allow PC. They're like, no, you can't use our trucks to PC. So if somebody gets stuck at a shipper, they actually send another driver to go pick them up. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Some companies just, the safety people, I think we know that most companies' safety people are what? Former car salesmen, who knows what they do? Yard move. Does everybody use yard move out there? Everybody's out on yard move. There's different ways you can use it that are legal and some that are not legal. Yard move you can use on an intermodal yard or a port. It's listed in there, the ports. The motor carrier's primary place of business. So if you're on the lot, you can use yard move. How about for a public road to access a private lot? Can you do that? Yes, for short distances. You can't yard move all over town. But if you're going from this lot to that lot, they go, you have to go across the street, get your trailer. You can yard move that because you're just crossing a street. They didn't used to allow that. That's a new thing in the regulations where they're going to allow you to cross a public road for yard move. You can also go for privately owned lots, but not like a store delivery. So I know many people, they'll say, okay, go deliver this store in the mall. You can't yard move around the mall. That is not a private lot per se to this because it's not blocked off from public view where the public can access it. You can't access that. The big one though, split sleeper. People, is anybody split sleeper? I can't tell you how many people we have that get busted on the split sleeper. The main thing that they get busted for, they don't use the second part of it. So they'll be in a dock 2 hours and they think, oh, I'm going to split this. They come back to the yard to go home and they take the second part of the split off duty. You can't do that. The longer part has to be in the sleeper. So we get people that think they've split it and we're like, no, you can't split the long part off duty. The short part, I get to say duty a lot here too, which I really enjoy. By the way, for people from the channel, know I enjoy that. The short part has to be at least 2 hours, and it can be off duty, it can be sleeper berth, and the long part must be at least 7 hours. And they have to add up to 10 hours. And both sections of it then stop your clock. So right from the beginning one, we're going to stop our clock, but you better take the second part or you're done. You cannot split it if you don't take the second part. You can take the short part first or the long part first, and that's the thing. You're in the dock, why not hop in the sleeper and do a split sleeper so that you can get the heck out of there and none of that time count against your log. There's so much of this kind of stuff that goes on that people don't utilize it. They're just like, oh, I'll just be on duty or whatever. Just go off into the sleeper there so that you can split, because as long as you can continue to split, by the way, as many times as you want. 2, 8, 2, 8, it doesn't make any difference. You can continue that for as long as you want to do it, really. Just don't use the short part and then go to the yard or somewhere and then forget about it, and you go, all right, I'm going to go off duty for the second part because I'm going to go home. And so I'm just done, and now you maybe were at 16 hours and you get busted. Now you have a log violation. That isn't any good. We don't want to have any of that kind of stuff on our records, honestly. That just costs money. A lot of the times the DOT, they'll just plug this in and go, oh, here, you're busted here, right? Now, I had some recommendations from astute viewers of the channel, like paid parking. How about paying for parking? I know people are like, oh my God, Mark, paying for parking, that's the craziest thing. Well, according to a bunch of surveys that they do, drivers spend about, 57 minutes a day looking for parking at the end of the day. 57 minutes. So if you paid $15, it's $15. How much do you make in an hour? You make more than $15 an hour? Sometimes it can pay to pay for your parking. Or you could park early as well, because it'd be the same thing. If you parked a little bit earlier, instead of searching around for an hour at the end of the day, we're driving, although I know many people take that as PC time or off-duty time, which is not allowed. If you parked early, you got all parked up, you could be like, all right, I'm parked right now, and then I'll get out of here in the morning. That all saves time legally, because we don't want to run any minute illegally. No company should ask you to run illegal, and you shouldn't do it for them. Because why are we running illegal stuff for them? They don't pay extra. Hey, here's your illegal pay. How about this? Some other driver said, hey, change what you do. Why don't you just go drop and hook? Well, that's probably not that simple, but you could look for a job that offered drop and hook time. You could look for a job that is a dedicated route, so you exactly know where you're going. And so you know, all right, I have parking at this every single day. The other problem that we have out there, I see this all the time on corners. Why are people slowing down on corners? So you only have so many hours, and you say, oh, that's not me. I see it constantly. Gentle curves, and we're down to 50 miles an hour. That's no good. We don't want to do that. 30-minute break. Watch that clock and leave on time. 30 minutes is 30 minutes. Use that time to fuel, pull up, block the fuel line like everybody does apparently. Make sure that you hold all the drivers up behind you, but leave on time at the end of that 30 minutes. The other thing you can do at the end of the day, if you've made a mistake, you can edit your log. You can't edit your drive time. But if you've made a mistake on your log, edit that time back. You're like, oh, wait a minute, this time was actually off duty so that I can get that split sleeper. You can edit that time back. You can edit other than drive time. You can edit. So did you mess your log up? Did you do any of those things? You can edit all that time. The only reason we have to do this really is because companies, I think, right, should really pay you for your time, which they don't. So they're out there saying, hey, you're going to sit here for a couple of hours, not going to pay you. You got to sit there for a couple hours, no pay. And so we got to try and figure out the best way to do it until companies, get back to the way they should, which is paying everybody for all of their time. Will that day ever come? I don't know. I kind of doubt it. Just talking to them down there, I kind of doubt that. Does somebody use recaps too? I think we should use our recaps. You'll end up with more hours at the end of the week. There's so many people that will say, you know what, I'm going to sit for a day or 34 hours rather than driving because I only have 7.5 hours of time today. So I can't use that time because I want to sit a whole day and so I can get 34 hours and I got time back. Well, then the next day it turns out you talk to them and they're picking up 8 hours. So in those 2 days that you sat, could be 15 hours down the road, but instead you're like, no, I'm going to turn this load down because I don't want to figure out recaps. The ELD now, which pretty much everybody's using, I think, figures it out for you. It should show you on there. There's like 100 different kinds, so I don't know about that. But it should show you how to do all that stuff right on there. It's tomorrow you have this many hours, tomorrow you have that many hours, stuff like that. That's what's going on it. Use your recaps to maximize your time. I want to say, I don't have any fancy slides or whatever, like people come up here because I'm just a driver out there, so sorry on the slides. Looking for parking is drive time. We have so many drivers that'll drive around a truck stop, creeping around. If you've been behind that driver, he's creeping 2 miles an hour. That's old driver up there, creeping around, trying to get his log time in. I'm going to get my 30-minute break here. And the lines, snakes all the way back out of the Petra, right? You're like, he's finally moving out of the fuel island, but then it's 12 minutes before he gets to the exit, okay? That kind of thing. See, the thing about that, people are only doing that because they're not being paid properly. I think just if you got paid properly, you wouldn't have to do that. You wouldn't have to creep around. You're benefiting the company, and so you're creeping around. Drive the heck out of there and let them figure some of this stuff out. It's the only way that anything changes is when you will take and make your problem their problem. Say, sorry, I'm an hour away, and I'm out of hours now because you guys don't have this figured out. But people will creep along mile an hour through the truck stop or wherever else they go. At least I guess they are getting a 30-minute break. There's no exemption. I get that question all the time. Mark, what about are there exemptions? Are there exemptions to this? Hey, no. You don't get to look for parking. I went into this truck stop and there's no parking, so then I went off duty and or went on PC to go to the next 4 truck stops. There's not like an exemption or 15 minutes. People have said that too. Hey, Mark, you get extra 15 minutes. You get 15 more minutes to go if you can't find parking. I'm like, where's that written down at anywhere? Is somebody know something that I don't know? They don't give you any of this extra time to look around for driving and parking. But we get these kind of violations from people all the time. We get that violation probably and the 30-minute violation because people will start driving at 29 minutes, 28 minutes. Be very careful about that because it's a violation. And so they start driving and you can't edit that time back. So once you start the driving, you can't edit the drive time off there. You got to have them go do magic in the office. Now, from some astute viewers have sent these things in, and they said, look, simple one, just be organized. How much time can you save if you actually knew what the heck you're doing? People go out during the day, and then they get stuck in traffic. They don't use Google Maps or whatever. It's free. Oh, I had no idea. We had that just in Indiana not that long ago. There was a big accident. It closed 65 for, I don't know, 7 hours. And the backup was for miles and miles. Now, all right, if you're the first one up to the accident, I get it. You didn't have any idea. But once that accident's up there, why don't people keep track of that stuff? The Google Maps, yeah, it's not good for truck routing and stuff, but it will show you all the traffic and everything. That's free. And sitting in a backup for 7 hours is not that useful, although probably some people got half of a split sleeper there. The other thing always, left door closed. I hear, oh, just keep your left door closed. Everybody wants to have their door open. Well, I guess they're all parked getting their, metal armor, their night suits and stuff at the Loves. They're buying that kind of stuff. But yeah, get going. Only plan out your stops that you need to stop. I would stop once a day during the day for showers because there's less traffic. Everybody always does stuff in the evening. So you get in there, park, 2 o'clock, get your shower, then go park at night, and everybody's inside. Drivers are just like everybody. Normally, they do stuff at the top of the hour. So if you want to get in somewhere, all the showers get filled up at 5 and 6 and stuff. Plan stuff for 50 minutes after. True story, you'd be surprised how often drivers do that kind of stuff, where they're at 52 minutes, 58 minutes, right? There's nobody in there, because everybody sets their alarm at the top of the hour. And if you can, fuel where there's no line. I know some places will give you an open fuel card, or they'll say, okay, you can fuel any pilot, any Flying J, any TA, like that. Well, don't fuel at the ones where there's a big line. People running down, oh, it's 6 miles to empty, I have to fuel here. You passed up 14 truck stops along the way where nobody's in there, and then you go on exit 4 on 465, you get off, you're trying to get over to Mr. Fuel, everybody's backed up, the Flying J's on fire, it's a big disaster. You can't get in, the place is packed. And so you're like, oh, why is this happening outside of Indianapolis at 5:30 p.m.? I had no idea. That kind of thing, just that kind of planning, that kind of stuff, that saves tons of time. Does anybody have any questions? Because I don't really have the full hour of what's going on. I had all this stuff from my astute viewers. So if we have any questions, we'll go to that. Otherwise, I think we're going to just give people some time. What's going on there, sir? I got to come down because I got the mic. I'm the only one out here today.
I'm curious about split shift.
Yeah, split sleeper.
How does that work?
So you're split sleeper. So your first part, you can go from off duty. You can be an off-duty PC or whatever you want in the first part, or the small part, 2 hours, between 2 and 3 hours it has to be, the first section. The second one then has to add up to 8 hours, add up to 10 hours, right? So you have to add, they have to total 10 hours to split your sleeper. Both of them, as long as they total 10 hours, stop your clock. So right at the beginning of the first one, so you're driving, you go in the sleeper at noon for 2 hours, okay? Your clock then stops at noon. That 2 hours doesn't count. You start driving again for 5 more hours. Now we have 10 hours of driving. Now we have to take 8 hours off, right? That's 2 plus 8. That's 10. So that first section gone. Your clock doesn't start until the end of the first section. So now we have 5 hours of driving, 8 hours off, 8 hours in the sleeper. We can drive again now. We can drive 6 more hours because everything from that first section before is gone from splitting that sleeper. It's gone away as long as you take the second part. Both of the sections stop your clock. That's the beauty, really, of the split sleeper. They're actually thinking about going back to the way it was, which is any 2 combinations up to 10 hours. It used to just be 8-2 then, and then now there's 7-3. They're thinking about going all the way to 5 and 5, which is the way it was. They're like, oh, we're going to have to do a bunch of studies about it. That's what the government said. And well, they did 5 and 5 for what, 1,000 years or whatever, you know. The Roman people were 5 and 5, and so they're finally going to go back to it. But as long as you take the 2 sections, the long part must be in the sleeper. And that's where people get wrong on it, because they'll go home. The long section is sleeper. The short one can be off duty. Could be sleeper time. Okay, so you can go, you're at the, I don't know, you're at the terminal, you want to go shopping off duty. Okay, you can do that, right? Because the short part doesn't have to be in the sleeper. Only the long part. And that extends your day. And then after you're 8, you drive 6. You could take 2 and drive again, because now we still can split the sleeper. And at any time, you can always run 10 hours and get all of your hours back. So it doesn't matter. So you can do the 2 and 10 and split sleeper it. How about that? You drive 5, take 2. Then you drive 6. Now we're driven 11. Now we take 10, we start our hours over. And we split it, no problem. Doesn't make any difference. As long as they total at least 10, they could total more than 10. So you could do 2.5 and 8. That counts because they total at least 10. The small section is at least 2, and the long one then has to finish the 10. So 2 or 3, and then the long one finishes the 10. Doesn't matter if they're more than 10. They have to be at least 10, with the short one being at least 2 hours. The ELD that you have, no matter which one it is, should actually do this for you. it should have it on there. But some companies have it turned off brilliantly. So I don't know why they do that. They gray it out. You should ask them to turn it on. A lot of them, though, will do it. If they're open, it should allow you right there. It should say at the bottom, I've seen it on some of them. We use GeoTab, but I've seen it on a lot of them where on the bottom it says, hey, you have the beginnings of a split, basically. Are you going to continue that split? It'll say it. But there's like 100 different kinds. And so people always ask me, I use ABC kind. I'm like, I don't know. I don't use that kind. But on GeoTab, it'll show you the split on the bottom. And I got to assume that they do that. Otherwise, how would people keep track of it? It was hard enough on paper logs with people keeping track of a sleeper split. And we still have people, even on GeoTab, where it tells you how to do it. We still have people that have a problem getting a ticket with it or whatever, because on the few sleepers we have, they try to split it and then they mess it up, usually from coming home, not realizing that the long part has to be in the sleeper. They'll sit at some dock somewhere, and that's always a problem for them. So that's a story. That's a story on split sleeper. Does everybody understand split sleeper? It's one of the hardest things that they've come out with, really. No. You can't do a 2, work, and 2. Now, you can always go in the sleeper, no problem, but the only way to split it is in 2 sections. So you could work, 2, work, 2, work, and go, but then the split is the second 2 and the long part. The first 2, so you're in sleeper, it wouldn't count against your drive time, but it would count against your 14-hour time, because you can only split it on a double split. You can't go a 3 section. That'd be great. If we could do like 10 1-hours here, like 20 30-minute breaks or something like that. But depending on how many stops you had, that would actually work out, for people. But no, you can only do a 2-section split. And they have to be together. So you couldn't do 2 and then 1 and then 8. You can't split them like that. They have to be a 2-section that add up to 10 hours, short section at least 2 hours. And then the long one finishes at 8. Can be, and it doesn't have to be even, especially with the ELD. It can be 2 hours and 9 minutes, and then 7 hours and 51 minutes. It doesn't matter. It can be any amount like that. The log used to always just do 15 minutes. That's why people think, oh, well, it has to be in 50-minute increments from a paper log. But it doesn't, as is not the case. It can be in any kind of increments that you want, as long as they add up to 10 hours in 2 sections. Anybody else on split sleeper? That's where we get a lot of problems. That and really 30 minutes, which I don't know why we get problems on a 30-minute break, to be honest with you. 30 minutes is pretty simple. You're on duty 30 minutes, and then you drive. But then, no. What do we get? 29-minute. We had a 29-minute and 53-second break one time, I remember, because they posted it for everybody to see. For a few seconds, I always tell people, look, go 31 minutes on a thing if you can, because you never know what the clock is actually looking. When it clicks to 30, did it really click 30 minutes? Or is the clock like, let's just average to 30 minutes? We just never know what GeoTab is thinking at any one time, really. The PC, the other thing probably is yard move that we have a problem with, a little bit yard move. People use yard move a little longer than they probably should. And as long as the computer doesn't show a violation, companies don't seem to care. As you turn it in, the companies are like, oh, that's fine. Who cares? It's a legal log. But if you get stopped by the DOT and you're showing 12 miles of driving on yard move all over town, I think that's going to be a real problem. Companies are all about turning in a legal log as long as it gets the job done. They don't say anything to you. They really only care about it once you have an issue. And then they would be like, oh, well, they're all horrified when we had no idea. They're like, oh, this is the craziest thing ever. And but they all know that that kind of stuff is going on. They kind of look the other way at most places. I don't know how it works for owner-operators, but certainly for company drivers, which I am, it works that way. As long as you are not giving them any problems on the log, they'll let you turn it in. You could you could probably PC halfway around town or whatever with the load, and I don't think they would turn it in. They wouldn't say anything to you about it unless you got a ticket. Unless there was a problem, and then they're like, oh, well, wait a minute, we tell our drivers never to do such a thing, and we are super surprised at this, but that happens all the time. Yard move is only for private areas that are basically cut off from the public, private lots, your motor carrier, a port, something like that. You can't just drive around town, although people try it. You can't pick up a load and then drive to a yard and say, well, I'm moving to the yard. That is not what the idea of a yard move is. We all know FMCSA is in on regulation. They're all here. I don't want them to come out here or anything like that. I'm glad they have something behind you, but you know, because they're sneaking around here. If you see them walking around, a bunch of suits and stuff, they're all about rules. But companies, they may let that kind of stuff slide a little bit on the rules. All right, so I think we all know that. That and the creeper at the Petro. So. Anything else going on out there? Yes, sir. Oh, I get this question a lot. Okay, so for people that don't watch the YouTube channel, I do a live show every Monday at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time. I have for about 3 years, holidays included. And people always ask me where I work. When you get on YouTube, when you start posting a lot of videos on YouTube, companies get a little nervous about that kind of stuff. And they're like, oh, we don't want you to say this. We don't want you to say that. That company is our friend. We don't think you're doing this. So what I do is I don't tell people where I work because it keeps them out of my videos. Otherwise, they can come out and say, hey, take that down. You're fired. Tons of people get fired off of YouTube for posting videos. Some of them, rightly so, because they have a camera and they're talking to it when they're driving. Hey, I'm driving my truck. I've been driving for 3 days, you know. Okay, so they get fired, absolutely. But a lot of companies, they don't want you posting videos at all because it's like you're speaking for them if they know that you're one of their drivers. So, and I checked, we don't have a booth here today. I was going to go give them some grief, but they don't have a booth here today. Too bad. But I don't ever say where I work, and that keeps them out of my videos. I also don't recruit for them. Maybe I should start doing that, but I'm not gonna, all right, on the channel. I don't recruit for them either. I let them do all that. Companies are very nervous when drivers start posting stuff because you may post something that the company doesn't want you to do that is slightly over. I've seen drivers posting like tips and tricks to get around your ELD regulations or something. You can't be posting that kind of video in your company shirt. Okay, they do not want that kind of thing posted because the DOT, Pete, right, whoever, is going to look at their videos and say, hey, what are you doing? Why are you guys doing? That doesn't help them. Plus, who doesn't like that? The Hammer. Okay, we all know the Hammer. He runs every billboard in Indiana, and there's a Hammer for your state, whatever state you're in, your state here, Hammer, and he watches those videos too. And that's the thing. When you post the company, if they allow that to be posted, that Hammer is going to take that video. Any of their trucks have an accident. It doesn't have to be you. Some other truck, some goober on the other side of the country runs into somebody, kills like a school full of nuns, as they always say, or what a orphanage. And the Hammer is going to say, well, look at this company, and he's going to show it up on the screen to the jurors, none of whom drive. Myrtle Gerbenheimer, who's 93 on the jury, is going to see this video and say, oh, well, why does this company allow these drivers to do these illegal things? Boom, there's $40 million, just like that. And then the ATA comes out and will gripe about, oh, this is terrible, all these lawsuits. Well, so that's why they fire drivers for doing that. For people that want to start a YouTube channel, do not put the information about your company on there. If you expect to have the channel, they look for it. They look for that. They search their name, constantly search their names out there. People constantly, you'll see them post 3 videos, and the next videos, I just got fired from this company, right? Oh, look at my rental car. I'm on my way home, right? That's their videos. That's their channel, 4 videos. 3, and they're fired. Because the last one, here's the Greyhound terminal, all right? I'm headed home. Only 2,172 miles. I'll be home 4 days on the Hound. So that's why I don't post where I work. I think it's a good idea for anybody who wants to post a video a blog, anything, unless you're going to be like, you know, I love this place or whatever. Some people do that. There are some large companies where drivers make, you know, twice what they make driving as a recruiter. People don't realize. They put, hey, here's my information in the comments. That's all their videos are, recruiting. And they'll make all kinds of money there. Some of them barely have to drive. That's not, that's not for me. I don't do that on my channel, but it happens quite a bit. It happens quite a bit out there. So keep the company out of your information. All right, thanks for that. Hey, what's going on? All right, so thanks for that. That's part of the YouTube experience, as they say. Nothing to sell, but we can always go over there on Monday on the live show and talk about that, which I'm sure people will talk about that have seen this. By the way, all these seminars from up here on the stage will be on the Matt's website at the end of the show. So everybody that has been up here will be on their website at the end of the show. So that's a little Matt's insider information as we get filmed for that. So anybody else have anything to go on that? Yes, sir. I'll come down here. I feel like Sally Jesse Raphael, okay? Yes. Right, 150 air miles, right? So if you stay within 150 air miles and your company allows it, right? Because that's a company thing. So they have to allow you, you wouldn't have to run a log. They have to keep track of your day. You have to be back within 14 hours and be released from your reporting location every day. So you can't start here and end over there at the end of the day and do that. So if you come back local at the same place and they release you at the same place, they have to keep track of it for 6 months and you wouldn't have to run a log if they allow it. Like here, even people go across town, they got to run a log. Everybody runs a log. But if your company will allow you to not run a log, you wouldn't have to. Is it your truck? Oh, yeah. Well, then you would just have to keep track of yourself since it's your company. That's right. So you keep track of yourself that you're released from the same place. I think it's 6 months is the reporting requirement for that kind of thing. And you just have to show that you got released within 14 hours at the place you started from that each day, and then no log. Isn't that great? It's pretty, plus, you wouldn't have an ELD. What kind of truck is it, by the way? Is it, let me see. I wish I had that envelope like Carson. Is it a Peterbilt? Oh, how did I get that? How did I get that? What year is it? 2000, right before, or is it rebuilt or, nice. How many miles are on it? 33,000? Oh, 1.3 million. All right. Well, and I guess now with the price, what's the fuel mileage? What are we getting? 5.5. Sweet, but no log. And hopefully, well, now what? 2 more years it's paid off, right? 2 more years of paying. Yeah, 2 more years of paying off. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. But so you wouldn't have to have a log. And then during the day, if a DOT officer asks you, you should have bills or whatever for whatever you deliver. What are you hauling around in that truck? Furniture. Well, there should be some bills. Then you could say, all right, I got it, picked it up here, going here, whatever. But maybe within 150 miles, you don't even see an officer. You might see more of them here than you see on the road, right? Yeah, I mean, and that stuff should be light, right? Well, all right. That sounds like a pretty good gig. Maybe we could do a YouTube channel for, you could start a YouTube channel for that. That'd be pretty good. Get that in, but don't put your company name in it, though. So, does anybody have any other questions that were going on out there? Yes. Back down I go again. Immigrant drivers. That's a good one. Boy, we're going to be canceled here in a minute, I think. That's not going to be great. Although I saw more Trump hats here than I've seen anywhere, but we're not going to get into politics. My opinion is anybody that's here legally is fair to work here in the United States. So if you come here legally, I'm all for it. I mean, you know, my friend's parents immigrated from Romania. And, you know, so I'm okay. If you're here in the country legally and want to work, I mean, everybody needs to work. So absolutely, there's plenty. It seemed to be plenty of jobs for them in the trucking. You just go, I could shake my stick around down here and there's all kinds of jobs down there. But yeah, so you may be against it. But I mean, if people come here legally, I'm okay with it, you know. Well, people come to the United States legally all the time from different places, you know. You can't come here from England? Well, you're here. I arrest this man. No. Where's Pete when you need him? That's right. You do right. I'm saying legally, right? So you can't get a green card. Why can't they? Why won't they give you a green card? Trucking? There are companies that hire Visa Solutions, which may have a booth here today. I'm not sure. And that's all that company does is bring people here on an H-1B or whatever it is visa to drive. There are companies in the United States doing that. You know, and there's a company, it's called Visa Solutions, that helps the people get the paperwork to work legally, you know, in the United States to drive. So is it because of the country they don't need as many people from that? Because it's country dependent, right? Is it because they only want people, so many from here, so many from there? Wow. Did you talk to them here? Some of these companies? I mean, uh, yeah, the West Wing, right? Wow. Yeah, they're already on the other side of the road. We give them a lot of grief. They have come a long way at Swift, right? So years ago, it was much worse. And because they have more trucks is why we see more of them in the ditch and all over the place. And that goes, you know, with trucking because they don't have a requirement for the trainers, which I give a lot of grief at places about. Since there's no training requirement, the trainers, some of them started driving last week too. Like, I was in the class before you, remember seeing you come in, you know, and that's your trainer. So yeah, I don't know why that is, but I do know companies do. You should look into Visa Solutions. That's what they do. That's what they do is get people their paperwork to work here, and they work with trucking companies because they advertise all the time for it. So people will come legally. Yeah, that's a way to get a green card or whatever, I think. I don't know if they have a booth there. You should actually check. So I don't know what else to say, but even so, I'm still for people that are here legally working. I have no problem with people being here legally. All right, so anybody else can need a green card problem. Ooh, back down I go. Back to the back. Yeah.
And I have an issue with the recap. Normally, I stop my drivers every 70 hours and do the 34.
Right.
And they told me, I work for another company and they let me keep going.
Yeah, right.
And sometimes I look at I use Transflow. I look at the recap. They told me you have 5 days for the next day. I say, no, that's not enough to make a delivery.
Right.
And when I get stopped, and then in the middle of the 34, the next day they show me they have 19. I don't understand how can I handle it.
Well, the ELD should do the recapping for you, right? So at the end of the day, it should show on there how many hours you have for the next day, right? The drivers, oh, I'm not on the screen, right? The drivers should show, not that anybody would, they'd be like, please go further over. So, but not, it should show the hours for the next day. You have this many hours available. If they don't have that many hours, why wouldn't they at least drive that time to get closer to where they're going? Or is it because you don't want them to do it? Are you saying you're saying no, don't do it? Well, I mean, then do you just have somebody else take the load, or how does that work? So you're saying when you're out of hours to these people, you're just done. Stop driving. I mean, if it's your truck, that could be certainly your policy, but I think the drivers, if they would recap every day, just continue on the recaps, it's more hours than taking 34 hours off every week. If you'll run it out, drivers can go farther, get more miles, which makes you more money, and it makes them more money. And so then everybody's happy. The only people not happy are the DOT because they're not making any money, because with the ELD, right, we're running legal, which is the whole goal of everything. Running even a minute illegal, it's just so aggravating because all that really does is benefit the company. And I don't want to benefit them because they don't have any legal pay on your paycheck. Illegal amount of time running legal and then an extra bonus. They don't do that. So I'm not doing it, right? They should have that for a lot of companies because they just turn the other cheek until the hammer comes. But otherwise, Well, is that what you're just going to continue to do? Just run them on? What do they think about that? Because they're kind of sitting 34 hours in the middle of no place, meaning all your time spent away from your family should be spent making money. That's why you're gone. So the maximum amount of that time. Sitting 34 hours in the back of a Pilot parking lot is not great. You're surrounded by lemonade bottles and bags of an unknown origin. I mean, back there. So you should have a few drivers try it, maybe, and see if they make more money. They might do better. Your best drivers, and the ELD will keep track of it and let them run some hours up, make some money. They're away from home. What's the point of being gone, sleeping? Oh, another dog, right? I saw more dogs here than I see at the shelter. So there's another. But if they're going to run, if you're going to be gone away from your home, you might as well be out there and make money. That's the whole point. Why sleep in that truck and then sleep in the truck and then be like, oh, I can't do anything today. I'm just gonna sit here 1,000 miles. I guess I'll FaceTime my family. Be out there and make some money. That's why we're out there, though. Any off time, at least I think, should be spent, at your house other than a break. Get that 34 hours at home. The drivers probably be happier too. Maybe. Unless they're going across the country, I guess, or something. Who knows? Who knows? All right, anybody else with Sally, Jesse, Raphael, or do we head it out of there? So, all right. Well, I want to thank everybody for coming to Matt's today and for coming out to my talk, and for my sound guy back there. Thank you very much. You can get a little bit of an extra break on this one. I'm Mark from Trucking Answers. So, hey, how about showing up at the live show on Monday, 12:30? It's on YouTube. It doesn't cost anything, so come on out there. We have fun. We have roller wieners for everybody. We do all that stuff on there on the live show. So thanks for being here, and we're going to head on out. Have a great day here at Matt's.